Although the One E9s Dual SIM is to be considered among the top tier of HTC smartphones, its plastic body makes it feel more like some of the newer products in the second-rung Desire range, such as the slightly more affordable but much older HTC Desire 826. It also exhibits HTC's typical aesthetic, which isn't a bad thing at all since HTC is one of the few manufacturers to consistently excel at smartphone design, in our opinion. With a 5.5-inch screen, the One E9s Dual SIM is firmly in phablet territory. The front of the device is only 66.3% screen, with considerably thick borders and space on both the top and bottom for the stereo boom sound speakers. For a phone that is already large, this bulks it up further. Fortunately, it isn't as thick as most phablets, and its curved edges and dull plastic finish help with grip and ergonomics. The top of the One E9s Dual SIM has the 3.5mm socket, the USB port is on the bottom, the power and volume buttons are on the right, and the SIM and microSD slots are under a flap on the left. The back of the phone is stark and minimalist, with just an HTC logo in the center and the camera and flash in the top left corner. Although the device does not have a unibody, the back panel cannot be opened, which means the battery is not removable. The screen of the device is a 5.5-inch 720p capacitive touch display. Although official sources don't specify the screen type, some listings on e-commerce portals state that it is an AMOLED display. On the face of it, the screen has some of the typical characteristics of AMOLED displays, including deep blacks, good contrast, lower possible brightness and issues with daylight readability. However, the resolution is far too low for a smartphone that costs over Rs. 20,000 today, and the lack of detail is particularly visible because of the size of the screen. Considering that the OnePlus X review pictures packs in a far better Full HD AMOLED screen at a lower price, the HTC One E9s Dual SIM comes off as overpriced for the quality it offers. Specifications and software. This year, HTC has opted for MediaTek SoCs for some of its key devices, including the Helio X10 which found its way onto the M9 Plus and E9 Plus. The E9s Dual SIM, however, reminds us of its mid-range specifications with its MT6752M SoC. Designed to compete directly with Qualcomm, the MT6752M gets the better of the Snapdragon 615 SoC in most benchmarks. However, opinions are firmly divided on whether the MT6752M can truly compete against the Snapdragon 615. Apart from this, the HTC One E9s Dual SIM also has 16 GB of internal storage, expandable by up to 128 GB, 2 GB of RAM, an integrated Mali T760MP2 GPU, dual SIM connectivity with 4G on both SIMs, and a 2600 mAh battery. Fortunately, the slots for microSD and the second SIM are separate, so you aren't forced to choose between them, unlike some other recent smartphones. The E9s Dual SIM runs Android Lollipop 5.0, with HTC's Sense 7 user interface on top. Although Sense 7 is not very different from Sense 6 visually, there are some useful changes under the hood. This includes the Untitled apps, Gallery, Camera, Sense Home and HTC Backup, for example, from the UI so that they can be updated individually through the Play Store, rather than needing an overall update of the UI. Also worth mentioning is the ability to customize navigation controls and add a fourth icon alongside the 3 default Android keys, more color personalization options, and the excellent Sense Home widget, which learns what apps you often use based on location and time and gives you easy access to them. HTC's software has been among the best manufacturer UIs around, and remains efficient and functional in its design. UI performance is quick and problem-free. Performance. Thanks to decent hardware and excellent software, the HTC One E9s Dual SIM is a decent mid-range performer. Whether it's simply swiping about on the interface or playing intensive games such as Dead Trigger 2 and Angry Birds 2, the phone doesn't disappoint. The phone does heat up very slightly when it's put through intensive tasks, but it's much less than what we're used to seeing on some other smartphones. We ran our usual suite of benchmark tests on the HTC One E9s Dual SIM, and results were decent for a phone in this price range. The phone got an impressive 23 FPS in XBench, and also maxed out the 3D Ice Storm test that we usually use to test smartphones with 720p screens, returning a score of 5,960 in Ice Storm Extreme. Antutu and Quadrant returned scores of 42,114 and 19,075 respectively, both which are a little higher than what we're used to seeing on mid-range smartphones. In our battery test, the HTC One E9s Dual SIM ran for 11 hours, 21 minutes, which is decent for a phone with such a large screen. Part of it is thanks to the low-resolution AMOLED display, which is easy on the battery. In day-to-day use, the phone easily lasted us the whole day on a full charge. Other typical functions such as call and signal quality, as well as audio through the speakers or headphones, were decent. Verdict: the HTC One E9s Dual SIM is a good smartphone, no doubt. It has everything you need from a mid-range device, including good design, decent specifications, good cameras and enough bite in the performance to keep mid-range users happy. However, HTC needs to do a bit more than that to get buyers' attention in this competitive market, and One E9s Dual SIM unfortunately doesn't have anything out of the box to offer. While the AMOLED screen is decent, its low resolution is evident, and this is severely disappointing for a device at this price level. It also costs far too much when compared to devices such as the Honor 7, Review, Pictures, which offers much more bang for your buck. The HTC One E9s Dual SIM will lose out against such competitors because it is a straightforward and unexciting device. However, if you are only looking for reliability and functionality, it's definitely worth considering.